Hello, everyone, and welcome back to The Rundown. I'm your host, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. I want to start off with an apology for all of the technical difficulties and for being on so late. To be quite honest with you, we had pre-recorded the show today and was all set to go. And then, I realized as I went back and I looked at it, there's a segment that we do on the show and it talks about the books that Republicans, quote unquote, are trying to ban. Really, what they're trying to do is keep them out of our kids' public schools. But I have to admit that some of the content that was in these books, and as I was scrolling up at some of the images, when I was on the website initially, I did not look at all the images, and I wish I had, because there were some very graphic images that, to be quite honest with you, in hindsight, I didn't feel comfortable having on this program. So I attempted to edit the program. I attempted to edit it, put it back together, and then send it out, and then realized I sent it out with no sound. Yeah, I know. Brilliant of me, right? Right. So, back here, I'm now here. I'm live with you here on Hump Day in order to do the show. So, once again, welcome to Hump Day.
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
It's Hump Day.
Hump Day!
It's Hump Day.
Hump Day!
That's right, folks. Hump Day is the day in which we attempt to begin the weekend. Sometimes with success, sometimes not. But as we always like to say, the fun is always in the trying. So please take a moment, like and share the program. Let your friends know where the conversation is taking place today. You know where it's taking place? It's taking place right here, once again, on The Rundown. All right, before we get started, we want to make sure to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. We'll start off with Hitman Industries. If you're looking for rifle or pistol length or caliber barrels, this is the place to go. HitmanIndustries.net. They will have everything that you need to do, whether you're looking to rebuild your current rebarrel your current firearm, or you're looking to do a whole new rebuild. Hitman Industries is the place to go. Then you have the California Republican Assembly. Ronald Reagan referred to CRA as the conscience of the Republican Party. Folks, you want to check them out. If you are in California, if you are near California, it's an organization that you want to support, working to help elect conservatives everywhere from school board all the way up to President of the United States. The largest and the fastest growing grassroots volunteer Republican conservative, I can't emphasize that enough, conservative organization in the state of California. Check them out at cragop.org. Now, if you're looking for a holster, you're looking for a tactical holster, a concealed carry holster, you're looking for something inside the waistband, outside the waistband, I can't think of any place better to recommend you than to Hog Holsters. Now, you can find them at hogholsters.com. And better yet, you can get a discount. All you got to do is use discount code The Rundown. It's right up there. All caps, no spaces. Remember, all caps, no spaces. You can get a discount when you get your Hog Holster today. Finally, want to remind you about uscombatgear.com. If you're looking for outdoor gear, tactical gear, you're looking for eyes, you're looking for ears, you're looking for helmets, hats, backpacks, water bottles, whatever you're looking for, trust me, boots, they have it. They provide a quality product. They operate in integrity. They have fast shipping and great prices. Veteran-owned and operated, uscombatgear.com. All right, let's get into the first story that was on the slate here, and that has to do with U.S. history standards and how students are doing when it comes to history. Now, we've all heard the saying, those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. Well, how are you supposed to learn from history when, quite frankly, you're not even learning history? There was a study as reported by that was easy for me to say, as reported by Fox News. Fox News is reporting that only about 13% of eighth graders are actually at grade level or proficient when it comes to the study of history. When it comes to history or civics. Now, mind you, the reason why it's important is, once again, we're not just talking history, we're talking civics. We're talking about how our government works, right? There was a poll that was done not too long ago. I don't know if it was not too long ago, but it was a couple of years back. where they found that like a third of people couldn't name the three branches of government, right? Something like at least 15 to 20% of the people out there could not talk about things like separation of powers, or couldn't pass a citizenship. That's right. It was like something like 1 in 5 or 1 in 4 Americans could actually pass the citizenship exam. That's the exam that we require people to take in order to become citizens. How crazy is that, right? Right? Anyway, and as a result, needless to say, kids are going to be in a position where they're going to epically fail. And when I say fail, here's what I'm talking about. When you look at the fact that currently millennials and Gen Zers in much larger numbers do not support capitalism or free market economies, but would rather have socialism, that's a sign that people are not learning from history. When people are not learning about the fundamentals of why we became a nation, when people come down against things like the right to keep and bear arms or religious liberty, once again, these are people who are doomed to fail. Right? They're not going to learn. They're going to fall into the traps of Marxism and socialism because, once again, they're not learning from history. Or even better yet, take, for example, how the left has taken to call themselves progressives, right? That they think they made that term up. They think they made that word up. When actually they are promoting the same exact policies that the progressives of the early 1920s promoted. Now, these are the progressives that looked to the Soviet Union and communism and socialism in order to promote, for them, that was the way to go. We need to be like those folks over there in the Soviet Union. Of course, that's before we found out that Stalin was killing millions of his citizens, in some cases starving them out, in some cases just killing them. Once we found out that the economic utopia that was socialism really wasn't, well, then the socialists disappeared. Well, they didn't really disappear, or the progressives. They didn't really disappear here in the United States. They went into academia, in particular, into the departments of education in many places. So, folks, look, if we're going to learn from history, if we're going to learn from anything, then guess what? What we need to be doing, we need to be doing a better job of educating our young people on how our governmental system works. How about we do that? Anyway, sounds like a good deal to me. Anyway, moving on to our next topic. And this one will kind of give you an idea. So the next topic that we're going to talk about here, we're going to be talking about, are Republicans really trying to ban books? Well, I think the first thing that we need to do is first of all, you need to understand Republicans are not trying to ban books. What they're saying is that in our public schools, we need to make sure that there is age-appropriate material, whether it's in the classroom or whether it is in the library. Now, I'm going to talk to you about this, and the reason why the program, quite frankly, got so jacked up today was because, like I said, when we originally recorded the program, it had the material, and I honestly did not look all the way through the webpage when I was going through it that was showing the pictures and the imagery that was in this book. And there's some very graphic stuff. And I'm sorry, I just didn't feel comfortable with it being on the program. Some of it in particular, we'll get into it. I will describe it to you to a degree, but I'm not going to actually have it on here. But the story is really, at least the story initially, we're talking about a California bill. Right? Yeah, that's right. California, where I live currently. In this particular bill, this book basically would require books on all gender expressions in every elementary school. So not just middle school, not just junior high, but middle school, right? It says here, the California Democrats are advancing legislation that would require elementary schools to provide students access to books about radical gender ideology and other progressive causes, an effort to push against the national Christian white supremacist movement, according to the bill's author. Now, who's the author? California Assemblyman Corey Jackson, a Democrat, said legislation intends to combat the national Christian white supremacist movement, which is aimed to ban books. His bill which was pushed through committee and will now head to the full legislature, would put the State Board of Education in charge of classroom and school library books and texts. Books are about people of all gender expressions, would be required in every public and charter school according to the current text of the bill. To remove any potentially inappropriate material, schools would first have to ask the state's permission, but certain religious books would be ditched without government approval. Now, I want to share with you this quick video. And in this video, you will hear this is an 11-year-old boy who is reading from a book. He's a 6th grader. He's going to be reading a passage from a book that is available in his library. Check it out.
This book was on a stand. I'd like to read you a page. My back over my hips as I ask if we should take our clothes off. And he's saying yes before I finish my sentence. He's pulling off my t-shirt, laughing when I can't undo his shirt buttons. He's undoing my belt. I'm reaching into his bedside drawer for a condom. We're kissing. Again, we're rolling over. Obviously, you can see where this is going. I don't know if it's because we're feeling especially emotional or just tired, or these past couple of weeks have been too much. But this reminds me so much of the first time we had sex. We were both terrified, and the whole thing was kind of terrible because we didn't know what we were doing. But it was good too, so good, because we were a mess of emotions, and we were scared and excited, and everything felt new. So this sort of feels like that. Nick touches me like he's scared that any minute. Now, this book was at my middle school, and it was on a stand. When I rented it out to show my dad it, the librarian asked if I wanted more and if I wanted a graphic novel version.
All right, now Ray Kemp, who just commented. Now, I want you to tell me, what part of history was that book from? Please, Ray, if you're still watching the program, you decide you were going to throw in your comment on Facebook. What part of history, what part of appropriate is that segment of the book from? I want to know. Tell me, bruh. I'm watching. I'm following your comments. Now, keep in mind that the library, this was available to him in his school library, a 6th grader. And then the teacher comes back and says, well, would you like any other material? In fact, we have it in a graphic novel. And folks, let me tell you, the novel is very graphic. In fact, the Iowa Standard, who actually posted these pictures, and they did do a warning, and I wish I once again had paid attention. As I scroll down, I will not scroll down to the entire thing, but tell you what I will do. Here's what I'm going to do right now. I am going to right now take this, and I'm going to put it in the comments, and if you want to scroll down, or you feel it's appropriate to scroll down, so that you know I'm not lying to you, you will now know what is in this particular book. So let's scroll down here a little bit. So first of all, okay, they're talking about periods. Okay, number one, I don't know that you needed anything that's particularly graphic, but this is clearly a quote unquote graphic novel, talking about hiding periods. But then it gets a wee bit more graphic. Right? Where they're talking about, I would say, when I make it to the bathroom, I'll find my legs smeared with blood. In what world is this appropriate for a school library? Someone, please tell me. They talk about their first bra. They talk about experiences or same-sex experiences. And that's where he's getting down here talking about relationships and fantasies. Let's go look for, here they even talk about, what is that? A bullet vibrator. Now, what is a vibrator doing in a book for children? And once again, if you want your kids to read this sort of material, you go buy it for them. But this should not be available to minors. Now, what I have showed you is the PG-13 stuff. And I will describe to you. And like I said, I have put in the link. I put in the description in the comment section. I put a link to the page that I was just showing you. There are images of minors engaging in sex and oral sex with other minors in this book. And it is, I am just shocked. When you say when I say pornographic, I literally mean it is pornographic. And this is the material that they want in our schools. When you hear Republicans say, look, most Republicans, when they are banning these books, they're saying, we don't want them. What we don't want is we don't want them in our schools. We don't want them in our school libraries. We're trying to protect the sexualization of our children. What is wrong with that? Please explain to me, Ray, what do you have against that? And that's not the only one. There's another book called Flamer. Same exact thing. Graphic novel depicting images of here. This is stuff like this. Right? Is this what should be in our school libraries? No. Is this what our children should be exposed to? No. Once again, I don't understand why this is so difficult for you to understand. But here's what's happening. What you've got, Ray, and Craig, I know you, so I know who you are. So what you've got is you've got these folks who are trying to push their goal is to push the bounds of human sexuality. In other words, they want to sexualize our children as early as possible, because if they can push them beyond all human sexuality standards, then that's how they believe they can get acceptance for the choices that they made for their lifestyle. And once again, I just don't believe, well, let me clarify, not all of them. I believe that these are extremists in education and in that movement. There are plenty of LGBTQ people who are not supportive of stuff like this, who don't want their children reading material like this in school. They, like everyone else, want to be able to talk to their children and educate their children about sexuality and morals. That's what they want to be able to do. That's a parent's job. Right? That's a parent's job. So when you hear them talk about them, and now what they're trying to do, though, is they're trying to jump on the bandwagon. They're trying to jump on the civil rights bandwagon and say, oh, well, they're banning books about like To Kill a Mockingbird. What's funny about that is that book was banned by liberals because they didn't like the fact that the N-word is in it. Yeah. That's it. Now, books like Roberto Clemente or Rosa Parks, those books were banned by, once again, left-wing educators and oftentimes left-wing school districts, because they are trying to sensationalize laws that say, yeah, we will teach about Black history, but what we're not going to do is we're not going to teach things like all white people are racist and all Black people are oppressed victims, right? We're not going to teach stuff like that, stuff that's going to teach people that, well, if you do well, if you are well educated, well, that's because of your proximity to whiteness. No, that we're not going to teach that in our schools. That's what they passed in Florida. And that's what a number of different school districts are saying. No, we don't want that in our school district. I know for a fact that you can teach diversity, you can teach about cultural sensitivity without the racism that is included in very much of the anti-racism doctrine in education. And I hate to say this because, like I said, and I know some of you out there are going to not agree with me, but there are some good things in some of that training. There really are. And the problem is that there's also some very, very dangerous things that in fact promote racism. Hold on, wait. The principal should have been held responsible for that being in the library. But Ray, and I hear you, what they're doing right now is there's a bill in the California legislature that says you can't get rid of those books. This is the number one book that is being banned from schools. The number one book. Or not even banned. Let me say, not banned. They're supposed to have from school libraries, and in other libraries, it's just supposed to include age appropriateness, 18 and over, right? That's what it's supposed to have. Banning books means you're saying this book is not allowed to be bought, sold, or distributed. And Republicans are not saying that about any book, any of these books. Anyway, Ray, thank you for commenting. Like I said, they're trying to jump on the civil rights bandwagon. And there are some people who they want the Ibram X. Kendi stuff. They want the critical race theory stuff to be taught as a part of our educational system. And I'm sorry, I just ain't down for that. And I think a lot of people aren't down for that. But the idea of teaching history, teaching all of our history, teaching about slavery, teaching about Jim Crow, teaching about civil rights, teaching about the leaders who transformed this country really and didn't just have an impact here in the United States, but had an impact worldwide. Yes, we need to teach that. And by the way, in Florida, where Ron DeSantis is, that's a part of their constitution. They have to teach it. They just don't have to teach some of the divisive stuff that's included in there. Anyway, folks, that's kind of it about it regarding that topic. But, oh, wow, when I talk about doomed to repeat history, this is the history that some folks want to teach. And once again, their goal is to transform society, and they're going to start by transforming the definition of human sexuality. And here's the thing, and the way they're covering their tracks is like what they want to do in Chicago, right? In Chicago, they've actually are passing a standard, or they're changing the standards on how they measure their schools. They're no longer going to determine whether or not a school is successful by how well the students do. Kind of odd, doesn't it? Let me tell you what they are going to do. So this is the Chicago, they call it CPS, the Chicago Public Schools. Let's see, here we go. Okay, Chicago School Board unanimously approved a new system for evaluating campuses that district leaders vowed will make the city a national leader in rethinking how to size up school quality. In other words, school quality is no longer determined by whether or not they're doing a good job. It's going to be determined by, well, whatever we say. Anyway, the new policy named Continuous Improvement and Data Transparency, that by the way includes no data, formally replaces the district's controversial school rating systems, which had long come under fire for overemphasizing standardized test scores, in other words, how much you've learned, and unfairly labeling high poverty campuses because they were underperforming. Kids weren't learning anything. The new approach does away with rating schools on a 5-point scale from 1+ to 3. A separate policy the board approved will adopt 3 new labels that largely correspond with the state's designation for the schools as required under law. Under the new accountability policy, the district will compile an array of metrics and present them to parents and the public, rather than using a complex calculation to produce the ranking as the old system did. In other words, instead of actually looking at the numbers, we're going to determine some other standards. The new dashboard with that data will go live sometime during 2024-25 school year based on data from the coming school year. And while policy aims to hold districts accountable for providing the money, guidance, and other resources the schools need to improve, it does not spell out any consequences for the campuses that are not making headway. So here's what they're saying. It really doesn't matter if the kids are learning. We're not going to measure whether or not they're learning anymore. We're going to determine how much money are you giving them? What sort of programs have you implemented? Are you doing the programs that we say you're supposed to implement? Do you have the DEI and the anti-racism and the white supremacy and the white fragility and all of that stuff in these schools? See, this is all in line with, if you get a chance, look up the name Paulo Freire, right? He is renowned in the education community for his concept of the dialectical approach to education. In other words, by dialoguing with students, rather than being like a teacher providing information and knowledge, you're dialoguing with them and relating with them and then utilizing that as a part of the educational process, which in and of itself is not bad, except when you actually read his books, right? One of them is The Pedagogy of the Oppressed, and the other one is The Politics of Education. You can see where it's going already. In his mind, real education is not teaching them to read, write, or do math. In his eyes, the real education is political education. specifically Marxist political education. Communist, Marxist, political, radical education. In other words, educating them and filling their minds with information that is going to cause them to rise up against their oppressors. And that is more important than actually educating them. And see, in this case, what this does is this makes that possible. Because what winds up happening in the case of these kids is that what they're doing is in these schools, they're not learning. They are not learning. We learned that from the first thing we said. What, 13% of eighth graders proficient? And by the way, that's bad when it comes to civics and history. How much worse is it when it comes to reading, writing, and math? All right, that's what's going on with our educational system right now, and they need to be held accountable. And the advantage of test scores is this, and I can say this as a school board member: we don't just use test scores as a way in which to measure schools, but we use it to help identify specifically where students need additional help. Right? That's what's great about a lot of these assessments. We can determine whether or not their issue is with phonics. We can determine if their issue in math is whether they're having issues with adding, multiplying, dividing. We can identify and we can hone in and give them the extra help that they need in the areas where they need it. That, by the way, folks, is what equity is. At least that's how they claim equity is. Really what equity is in the way in which public schools implement it is we're going to categorize kids via race, and we're going to determine their needs based on what their race is, not what their actual needs are. That's what equity is. Anyway, but that's what all of this is. That's what this whole thing about here is. Here you have a theory is literally a study connecting between law and history. See, the problem, Ray, is, and I hear what you're saying about critical race theory, and technically you are 100% correct. But there are aspects of critical race theory that have made its way into the DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, into the anti-racism training and whatnot that where they're trying to work to instill in schools. I can tell you that in most cases, and I have not seen yet a school district that has actually passed or approved a critical race theory curriculum. I have seen specific instances where teachers have instituted aspects of critical race theory in their classrooms. I have seen instances where the DEI training, where the anti-racism training, and once again, I'm telling you specifically because I've gone through this, where it's included in how they're training teachers. And the encouragement in the next step is, how are you going to include it in your curriculum? So you might say it ain't happening, but it's happening. And by the way, you're right. It's a lens by which to look at things. It is a theory, right? But it's a theory that, number one, has never been proven. And it's a theory that, number two, is being treated as though it were fact. And because it's never been proven, because there's no real foundation or factual foundation behind it, it's almost become a religion. Because when you question it, if you dare question it, you are a heretic and you are ostracized. You are told, well, you're internalizing your racism. You are made to feel less than and ostracized until you come back into it. Look, I would encourage you, take some time to read the Marxification of Education. Take the time to read that by a guy named James Lindsay, right? And I think you'll understand what I'm talking about a little bit better. And you'll understand the concepts behind a lot of that. But once again, Ray, I thank you so much for tuning in and for having the courage to comment and engage in a conversation. All right, we're going to move on to our next topic, and it has to do with the IRS. The IRS, well, they're hiring. If you're looking for a job, they're hiring. And guess what they're hiring? Oh, they are hiring armed agents. That's right. The IRS is currently in the process of hiring 300 armed agents. Remember when they were buying all them guns and all that ammo? Yeah, well, it's for these folks, right? They're looking to get down. All right, it says here the Internal Revenue Service posted a hiring notice for hundreds of new armed agents amid Republicans' concerns about the tens of thousands of staffers and the staffers the agency is hiring with funding from the Biden administration. The agency is looking for more than 350 criminal investigation special agents in all 50 states, with applicants asked to serve a minimum of 50-hour weeks engaged in dangerous assignments and carry a firearm according to the agency job posting. I got to wonder, who do they think they're hiring these agents for? They say it's for like money laundering, terrorist activity, and other cases. I'm guessing that they're not dealing a whole lot with terrorism, because if they are, they're probably handling that off to Homeland Security. My point here, I guess my concern here is, what rich people are they going after with these 350 agents? Because according to, the Biden administration, this is only going to be used to go after the wealthy. These new agents that they're hiring, yeah, they're only going after the wealthy. So I don't know what to tell you about that. I'm guessing that those 350 agents, or let me clarify, the 87,000 agents are going to be used for other things. And that's basically going to mean to go after me and you. And that's probably why they're deciding to arm them, because they know, well, they really don't want to engage you and I unarmed. When you're coming after the average person to take their stuff, you probably want to make sure that you are armed. Anyway, that then leads us to our parting shots. Parting shots today are brought to you by Hog Holsters. That's Hog Holsters. Get your Hog Holster today. Use discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces. Once again, get your Hog Holster today. All right, this first one, and I know that a lot of you think that because of kind of the conversations I was having about the book stuff, I know you're thinking that I'm anti-LGBTQ, and I am not. I truly am not. But I will tell you this, I do know that LGBTQ comes in all different sizes, colors, and belief factors. And this is an LGBTQ that I think that, all of us, or all of you, could get down with. This LGBTQ basically says, let's get Biden to quit. It's a t-shirt here. It's got the LGBTQ, and then he's got the little LGBTQ letters with the flag behind it. And then you've got, let's get Biden to quit underneath it. Now, and since we're also talking about, things relating to privilege and white privilege, why not talk about liberal privilege, which, number one, means believing you have the right to control other people's lives. Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Number two, believing that you have the right to never hear other opinions. That's right, because I'm not even going to get it. They do believe they have the right to to never hear other opinions. Number three, believing that when you're offended, others have to care. Guess what? We don't. And then finally, believing that there are two sets of rules, one for you and one for everyone else. And this final one, I think, really kind of describes the differences between the generations when it comes to the issues of the day, in particular when it comes to dealing with race, the challenges of dealing with race and racism.
Grandfather was born in 1902 in America. Went through injustices you couldn't even imagine. My dad went through segregation, still got a PhD in nuclear physics, and had to march just to drink out of the same water fountains as everybody else. That's right. Me? I would never drink out of a fountain. That's disgusting. But my dad, man, I can't take him to the park because he has to drink out of every freaking fountain. I'm like, you fought for this? He's like, I deserve this, son. I deserve it.
Hilarious. Anyway, folks, that's going to be about it. But before we go, let me give another quick shout out to our sponsors. Hitman Industries, looking for rifle or pistol length barrels. Find them right there at hitmanindustries.net. Become a part of California's future today. California Republican Assembly. Get your Hog Holster right now using the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces at hogholsters.com. and find your tactical gear, outdoor gear, whatever you are looking for to have a good time. You will find it at uscombatgear.com. And that's going to be it for today's episode. We appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program and encouraging your friends to do the same. We will be back tomorrow on Thirsty Thursday. Y'all take care.